Double end bag, one of my favorite tools in the gym. It's speed, balance, positioning, defense, you kind of can do it all with it. Where on a heavy bag, you can get some bad habits because the bag kind of doesn't really move. You hit it, it kind of solid, it pushes you back. In boxing, you never really land all your punches, so you really want to be in control of yourself even if you miss. And the double end bag, you know, no matter how good you get, you're not going to land all your punches on it, so it kind of helps you learn how to control your body. A couple keys to this is I'm imagining that the double end bag is stationary. So no matter where it's moving, I'm kind of trying to time it in the center. I don't want to hit it here, trying to catch it out here, trying to hit it back over here. You're never really going to hit it, okay? And the way you punch it is basically the way you punch when you shadow box. And I'll bring that back to shadow boxing later because everybody tries to shadow box different than they hit the bag, and hit the double end bag different than they hit the heavy bag, and spar different than they hit. It's all the same. The way you shadow box, the way you punch is always going to be the same, and this kind of helps keep you keep that technique very sharp. Let me put on some gloves. You always want to wear the right equipment when hitting a bag of any sort. You want to protect your hands, your wrists, and a double end bag. You generally don't want big giant gloves because it's quick. You want to be more precise with it. So we'll put on some gloves. And basically, the more punches you throw, the more you're going to land. It's going to take a lot of practice. And you can get good at it. It stays relaxed. I like getting on it before I spar. It kind of gets me sharp with things coming at me, punches coming in my direction. And I feel like when I get in the ring, I kind of see stuff coming at me better. So here we go with a little work on the double end bag. You notice I'm not just standing there and hitting. I'm also moving my head. The bag's coming at me. I'm slipping out of the way. Back to the way you throw the punches, how you do it on here. If I try to time my punches and try to eye it, you're not really going to land it clean. The best thing is if I want to throw a 1-2, I just throw a 1-2. You know, that's a better way to get it to land. When I throw the hook, if I put my hook here, I'm going to miss. If I'm aiming for the center spot, I'm going to land a better, more solid punch. Now, sometimes the bag gets going squirrely. It's not lined up to punch. I'm either going to control it with my jab first, or I'm going to adjust my footwork to get lined up a better position on the bag. I can touch some punches to the cables. Pretend I'm doing a body shot. They even have some double end bags that are double end bags where you can do that. But I like generally a small double end bag on a really tight bungee system, and it gives you a really good workout. And here we have another version of the double end bag. It's called the jumbo ball. Not a really common thing you see in a lot of gyms, but I think it's a very important tool. And you work it kind of a little different than you would a normal double end bag. It's obviously bigger. It's a little slower, but it also comes back at you a lot harder. So it kind of makes you check your defense, keep you honest with your defense, or else it's going to smack you in the face. It also allows me to get a good head movement going, maybe take some angles and some positions, and I really have to use my timing a little even better on here, and my movement forward and backwards. If I start off and I throw a quick 1-2 at this range, see how I missed my 2? Because the timing's a little slower. On the other double end bag, I can throw a quick, boom, boom, it's there. So here I'd have to make an adjustment where maybe I step in and I get that 1-2 off, or I could jab, rock back, come back. So there's different adjustments I'm gonna have to make compared to the other double end bag. Also, as you just saw, it's coming back at me pretty quick. You know, the first thing is just get your hands up, check your guard, tuck your chin. If it's coming right back at you, you don't want to get hit. I'm getting in the safe position here. I see it coming. I don't want to take the brunt of it, so I'm protecting myself. I also have head movement, and I can also increase my distance, all right? So I'm going to give you a little demonstration on the jumbo double end bag. Again, proper equipment, gloves. Small gloves are fine for this. You can also wear big gloves if you prefer. Bell rings, work time. I also have uppercuts on this bag, which are a little more difficult on the other uppercut bag. And I can catch and shoot. Block a punch and come back with a counter. So it gives me a little more options than just the normal double end bag. All right, some of the techniques that we can do on the jumbo double end bag that might not be as effective on the regular one is I got a blocking and counter punching technique. We call it catch and shoot. Catching is deflecting the punch, and shoot, you're coming back and countering. You know, in basic, I'm gonna use examples of 1, 2, 3. I'm gonna block imaginary hook, and I'm gonna come back with a hook. And this kind of allows me to do that pretty well. So that works pretty effectively with this. You know, we also have some of the other defense we've talked about would be a pull counter. I can jab, pull counter, come back with a right hand or something, and punch. Basically, head movement, if you move your head, you can punch. Every time if I go left, I can come back with the left. If I go right, I can come back with the right. And then the ball allows me to do that. Okay? Uppercuts, something, it's got a pretty solid undercarriage here. I can come up on the bottom of it and hit it just like I would an opponent, maybe as a body shot or maybe as a uppercut to the chin. Okay, so this gives me more options that I wouldn't have on a normal double end bag. But it's a little more forgiving. It's bigger, it's easier to hit, so there's some give and take with it when you come there. Now, boxing isn't linear. I'm never just straight forward, straight backwards. I want to be able to take angles. I want to be able to get away from my opponent, but I also want to be able to keep my position and set up my offense. So if I'm going to hit the bag, it's going to come at me. I'm going to get out of the way and set up another punch using an angle or a pivot to do that. Okay? Notice what I did is I went the direction where I was going. Step with my left leg first, and I evaded the punch or the double end bag or the ball. I evaded it, and then my next goal is immediately I need to line up on my target so I can set up more offense, okay? And that works both directions. It doesn't have to be to the left, it could be to the right as well. Basics of head movement, okay? Obviously a defensive tool. You know, I don't want to be a stationary target for my opponent. I want to make my opponent try to chase me down and try to find me. Head movement's a good way to do that. And it also does a lot of other things. I can use my head movement to kind of make my opponent think about what I'm trying to do, kind of get inside their head, almost punk them in a certain way. I can use my head movement to set up offense is probably the best thing. So the keys to head movement are move your head. You know, and that sounds overly simple, but it's nothing more than that. I don't want to move it to one position and then move it to one position. It's kind of something you're always doing. I'm basically always just kind of have a little rhythm with my head movement. I can take it out, I can slip, I can pull counter, I can roll. The other thing you'll notice, as I'm moving my head, my hands are going wherever my head's going. Just in case I don't completely get out of the way of the punch, I also have my guard, my defense up to maybe block the punch that I don't get out of the way of. The other reason I have my hands up is because that head movement sets up offense, it sets up the punches, okay? The basic terminology for head movement is gonna be a slip. A slip, basically, you're almost like a windshield wiper. I'm going side to side. I would generally use that against a straight punch. We have a roll, which basically I'm gonna drop, come up underneath on the other side of the punch that I made miss, and I can use that to set up a punch. I have a pull counter. I don't have to counter, I can just pull and come back into position. So basically I'm making the punch come short. The other ones, I'm making them miss me completely, okay? On a slip, it's kind of opposite of what your brain tells you to do. You know, if I see a big right hand coming right at me, my instinct is to move away from it. But if it's coming straight at me, eventually it's gonna catch me. So I need to reprogram my brain to challenge the punch. If a punch is coming straight at me, I want to almost come to it. The punch is going to slip right by my face, and I'm going to be safe. I'm not going to be hit with that punch. And you can slip not enough, or you can slip too much. You know, if I'm looking and the punch missed me by a couple feet, then I'm not in position to come back with a counter punch. And basically what I tell everybody, did it skim your ear? Then it missed. Did it tickle your chin? Then it missed. If it's cracking you, obviously you're not getting out of the way of it. And if you're looking at it from a couple feet away, you're making your moves too big, okay? So we had the slips, we had the pull, we had the rolling underneath the punches. Rolling, I'm gonna be more under looping or hooking punches, okay? So I just wanna drop, get out of the way, and come up on the other side to set up my offense. I also can just change levels. I can just drop down, okay? I'm not rolling to the other side. I'm just getting out of the way of the punch. I can also use that to set up certain things. I can maybe drop my body in order to get my opponent's hands down to open up a punch coming up to the head. So head movement can do a lot of things, and the more you practice it, the better you get at it. And it's one of those things, you know, even when I first did it, it just felt awkward. But then the more you do it, the better it feels. And I'm gonna give you a little demonstration on a slip bag, which is probably the best tool for developing comfortable head movement. And how I move my head. There's a couple ways, but in a perfect world, I'm using my legs, my body, and my pivots on my feet to get my head from place to place. I don't wanna just move my head out of the way. That doesn't prevent much. I can't really move my head far enough, and it definitely doesn't set up offense, okay? I can move my head from just my waist, but again, my balance might be off, and it's really hard to generate speed from there. And also, it's hard for me to come back with power. I can come back with a punch, but it's not gonna be powerful. So in that perfect world we talk about, I'm in my stance, my feet are up, I'm pivoting, I'm turning my feet, and that movement, almost the same pivots as I do to throw my punches, I'm allowing that movement, those pivots, to take my head out of the way. Now what that does, if I pivot hard to push my head to the left, I'm in the same position I would be if I threw a right hand. But now I'm loaded, I'm set up to come hard on a hook, okay? If I push myself on the way to slip a jab or something, boom, I'm perfectly set up right now to come back with a right hand. And using my body and my legs to do that will help me be quicker, sharper, and definitely a lot more powerful with my counter punch. Slip bag. You know, I like doing rounds on this just like I do a round shadow boxing or on a heavy bag. And if you're new at it, I would suggest that you do a couple rounds just moving your head. Just get comfortable with your head going, making sure you don't get hit. You don't want to just stare at it and look at it. You know, I don't want to be under here not getting hit. I'm not using it what it's effective for. I need to get used to seeing things come in my direction and training my body to know how to get away from it. And again, like I said before, I want my hands to go with me so I'm ready to punch. So we'll do a little bit that's just head movement, and then we'll add some punches to it later on to see how that looks. Here we go. I'm gonna be right underneath the base where it's hanging from the ceiling. If I'm too far back, I'm not really moving from much. So I wanna be right under the middle, get the ball going, and just start moving your head. Now, I don't have to look at it, but I kind of have an imaginary picture of where the ball is gonna be. I'm imagining the timing of it coming back. It's not just what's in my front of my vision, it's also that I know it went past me one way, it can come back the other way. Sometimes it gets a little squirrely, we straighten it back out, start moving my head again, and you notice I'm never still, I'm always moving, okay? And that's all it takes. You might feel it a little bit in your legs, but it's a good training tool, and it helps you get your head moving. Now that we're moving our head really well, we want to use that defense to set up offense, okay? And we're going to set up some punches. In my mind, I have my imaginary opponent out here at the end of my reach. As I move in my head, I'm trying to make contact with my opponent, throwing my punches, same as if I would be shadow boxing. If you notice, every head movement can turn into a punch. If I slip left, I can come with the left. I can go right, come back with the right. I can double up on punches, and I can throw combos. Okay? Slip bag, very effective tool. You might have seen a lot of footage of Mike Tyson back in the day getting really good at this. He had some really good head movement. He's a good example. The speed bag, probably one of the most popular things in the gym. You know, you see it on the movie Rocky, and everybody wants to be able to hit the speed bag. And as a trainer, you know, I try to analyze everything. I used to think, you know, what really does this have to do with fighting? You know, I'm never going to stand in front of somebody and do this. You know, obviously, yeah, there's going to be a lot of shoulder endurance involved, but I realize that you're working a lot of your rotator cuff. And when you're punching, you're generating a lot of power using your body. You put a lot of wear and tear on your shoulders. And this works the rotator cuff good. Like, you build your shoulders up real strong to be able to handle all that hard, raw power that you're putting into your punches. Also, they say speed bag, it's not really gonna make me any quicker. It might give me some better timing. It might help me develop a rhythm, maybe a little bit of hand-eye coordination, but it's not necessarily making me a quicker fighter. But it's an important part of the whole boxing routine. You know, if you're one of those guys that your hands get tired, your shoulders start burning, you can't keep them up, I do a lot of work on this. If you have a hard time getting too tense when you fight, I do some work on this, practicing on being relaxed and loose. And you know, there's some traditional ways to hit it. There's some untraditional ways to hit it. You know, you can have some fun with it as well. Put some rounds in on it, get good, build up your shoulders, help prevent shoulder injuries. This is how I was taught how to use a speed bag, all right? You got the curvature of the bag here. Just above center, you want to kind of come down on the center of it. If I hit up, it's going to kind of not really bounce, it's going to get jumbled around. So I want to make sure I'm a little above the center of it. I want to keep my hands up. If I drop a hand each time, by the time I pick my hand up to hit, I miss the timing of the bag. And basically, it's all about finding the timing and the rhythm of the way the bag's coming off. In a perfect world, I keep my boxing stance. I'm nice and relaxed. My hands are up. And if you've never done it before, I suggest slower the better. Just find the rhythm, get it going. And I was taught to double hit each hand until you can develop the rhythm. Some people, you see them hit on the outside of their hands. Generally, you'd probably want to try to hit on the knuckles because that's really how you punch. But you know, it's not. There's people that are great fighters that hit, you know, from the outside of their hands. So I'm not gonna say that's gonna make a big difference. All right, so I'm gonna get the bag moving. 1, 2, 1, 2, 2, 1, 2. Okay, that's the basic rhythm of the speed bag. Now from there, I can kind of change things up. You know, I can keep going with one hand. Switch it up. Switch it up. You can see I hit it from underneath and then jump it up. This might be a little too tall for me. You generally want it about head height when you're working on it. Make sure you don't hit your head on the platform. We can go one hand to the next right away. So I'm alternating the rhythm, 1, 2, 1, 1, 2, 1, you know, just mix it up there. The basics, they're doing what I want. That's to get my shoulders stronger, more endurance, to build up my rotator cuff to prevent injuries, and you know, look good in the gym, of course. To start off, I might go 1, 2, 3, go, 1, 2, 3, go. But as I get used to that rhythm, I can skip beats. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, to where my next step might be where I'm not even missing a beat, okay? Then from there, once you get that one hand rhythm, the transition from one hand to the other might be a little tricky at first. 1, 2. I might start off a little slower. While I'm working, I'm moving my feet, I'm staying relaxed. I missed the bag, get restarted. You can change up the rhythm however you want. I can roll into it, kind of bounce the ball back really quick. Different fun way to do it. I can double punch it. Sometimes you might see people. The double punch I'm coming with the first fist, it's knocking it back up against, and right as it's coming back the first time, I'm hitting it again. And then I'm bringing both fists back with me, bringing both fists back with me. Okay. Sometimes you see some pro boxers in the gym, they might be moving, and they'll trap it up against the thing for fun, make it look pretty, a little bit of timing. It's not really teaching you how to be a fighter, but maybe your arms are getting tired and you just want to mix it up a little bit. Should be pretty tight, pretty well inflated. They have the bigger the double end bag, the bigger the speed bag, the slower it is. So if you're a beginner, I'd try to find a speed bag that was a little bit bigger. You know, you can get time to get your rhythm going on it. Sometimes you see little tiny ones like a peanut bag. They're fast as you could go, you know, and some of the pros are really good with those too. This right here, just the basic size, either a medium or an 8-inch, depends on what company you're buying them from. But it's a good place to get to after you got used to it. But the big one is definitely easier to start. Anything you can do on a heavy bag, you can do here. You know, I have all my straight punches, my jabs. But I also have the uppercuts. Okay? So I have the same combinations I have, you know, except for what I'm going to be able to do is I'm going to be able to incorporate uppercuts into the same combinations that I was throwing on the regular heavy bag. And also, depending upon the height of this bag, I can get some head movement off. And just kind of a reminder, a fun way maybe to move your head. I might throw something, drop up underneath, come up underneath the bag. Not too often am I going to go that low in a real situation, but you never know. And it just kind of makes it a little more fun. And I can set some good punches up off of that head movement, the rolling, the slipping, kind of keep things going with my punches. It's just another tool in the gym to give you a good workout or to practice something you want to try to improve with your set of skills that you're trying to bring onto your opponent.